Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Good afternoon. What a interesting day. Uh, Obviously, the biggest news coming out today, obviously, was mentioned in chat by a few people. McKee's brought up BIIB, a chart we've been looking at for, like 8 months now. Finally got some FDA approval for their Alzheimer's drug. Now, there's like two sides of this. Again, we've been talking about healthcare for a little bit. Uh, it's very much tied into what we've talked about, which I think is an important part to a point that should be made. When we talk about these companies, whether they're producing new drugs or not, a lot of it is their price is deterministic or based on the government support of them. This this decision is very much a almost like a get out of jail free card by the government. Basically, no one on the FDA board actually wanted it to get sort of pushed through. Like a private uh, decision was not to push it through, and then the FDA overturned by the overall government pushed it through, which is a big thing of what we've been talking about. Which is again these things like COVID vaccine makers like Moderna being given basically possibly now just go ahead. Here's some more money. Here's regular. Here's what you want to pass a drug. Here you go. This is exactly that story. The FDA going, okay, go ahead, even though there wasn't trials and shit done, which is great for obviously a way for these companies to have a reason to keep doing R&D and to keep putting good drugs on the street, right? So this was a big decision in this space, and I think again its proximity to COVID cannot be underestimated. And I'm gonna show so here we'll talk about the market. Market so far today was pretty flat on the value side, but what was again at all time highs here. But what was interesting was very strong growth trades. So we can go ahead and turn these bad boys to support here. Mega caps did very well, and really, other than Amazon not doing much, all five mega caps did significantly well. Even Apple with this candle, I'm gonna call is pretty damn good, all things considered. Amazon here was a little bit down in the dumps, still on support. But again, the other three, Facebook very sharp. Again, a big rally through all-time high. This is significant, continues to go. A must-be trade for all of these, even though again some of them were slower. Microsoft and Google just putting points on. It's striking to look at, right? And it really helped the average come the later of the day. Google almost all-time high as well. And so when we look at this sort of intraday perspective, it's really built up over here, right? The close was it just shows what we're doing, right? Climbing through levels very big. When you look at the overall market through S&P, you can see mega caps really gave us any points at all today. That was it. The rest, when we look at energy, banks, all completely flat on the day. Nothing wrong with that, right? They've been trending nonstop. Again, you're not losing points. It's really the most important part. So that's the market. Not much. I will mention. I mentioned the Janet Yellen tax sort of thing going on. Some people I talked to during lunch, I think, are a little bit more worried than I am, but they're still working on Wall Street, so they have a biased view. So maybe putting both of our biases together, because I'm big on wanting taxes. They don't want taxes because they work on Wall Street. I think the significance of it is that she was so easily able to convince G7 leaders to put the minimum 15% corporate tax in. So those of you that didn't see it, implemented a minimum 15%. Right? Biden had just mentioned it the other day, but she got all the leaders on board. I think the one thing to note there is that Janet Yellen has been the chairwoman of the Fed. She's now in the cabinet treasury position, and she's now has the power to get other nations on board with what we want, which is something that needs to be thought about a little bit, because she is very influential in economic decisions in this country, and we are at sort of the influx of economic decisions, really the most impactful that we've ever had, really, because we're spending more money than ever. The problems are going to need to be solved. This connection between politics and the Federal Reserve has never been closer. And so it's important to realize that that connection right now is probably going to go away when she's not there. And so I think there's a little bit of understanding that, okay, she has a lot of power right now. She's able to convince G7 leaders to to implement this tax, what's next, right? And so let's keep that in mind for things to come, because the ECB also coming up on Thursday is going to be releasing some things. There's things that possibly could be a little different if Yellen is able to kind of strong arm everybody else to come to our understanding, which means a lot of spending right now and then still more looming problems. Anyways, let's talk about the fun stuff. So the point I wanted to make about this, obviously we can talk all we want about FDA letting this drug through, whatever. The point I want to make here, first of all, is that just about every single bio was up today. We've been talking about Moderna plenty, but you go through our list. I post a lot of bio charts, right? I like them for volatility. We always look at them as risk plays. If we look through and start to obviously shout out to the apes continuing the great moves. If we look through, so most of these again that we're looking at are all bio companies, right? And we start to just look at some of this stuff, and you're trying to put again a story. We talked about the story earlier. The thing here that I want to point out is we got big news today, but what's leading all this is again the technical side of things. If you look, right, every time there's a breakout, it's led to significant upside, right? When we look at these charts. And I want to show you just, so for instance, we had this BIIB chart. That's April 20th. That's pretty much a month later, right? A month later, the big news comes out. We mentioned this chart back in here as well. And so here's the picture. This is the picture from December 18th. December 18th, we also had a very similar idea and got a very big move, right? And then this is the one from April 20th. It's really important to note how the market trades into basically it's speculation, right? And so when we look at this was right after that other chart, right? Significant points through here, which again, I just chart every single thing that comes as a breakout if it's a consolidation, right? So there's no, like, again, not fitting lines. It's just it's important to note how the market is trading some of this stuff and how a lot of this bid is coming before something big happens, right? So this chart was breaking out of a range before this sort of event happened, right? Usually if you're going to have some sort of information, you're going to trade it at least a month before, right? It doesn't make sense to go buy it days before. Obviously, we had some bid coming off of support through here, but that's pretty normal looking, right? We talked about this stuff. I just talked about it on Friday that we wanted to buy bios into this week, right? And that we're going to be talking about it today, which we did. And so, again, put this into perspective what I'm talking about of this overall sort of understanding that the government is going to be more involved. And you can see today that they allowed an FDA ruling to go through. It doesn't end there, right? It doesn't end there. And so, again, you look at a chart like Moderna and these other bios that are now going, a question needs to be, it begs to be asked, right? It begs to be asked in whether there's news or not. Whether there's news or not, the market thinks there's something. And so when we see all these charts doing moves that are past the average, right, and breaking out, it means something. If there's a breakout, it means something, and there's upside there, which is why we set up a plan for it, right? That's literally the point. And so I think today is a significant sort of confirmation day overall for what we've seen. This is in the midst of, again, retail still trading. We know they're involved in this. We know how easy it is for them to get involved with things like Twitter. Like I know McKeezus is big on finding some of that stuff and finding out what people are interested in. Some of these things are again important in that way, in understanding how the longevity works and how big they can go. We've seen the gamma events that can happen with bios where they push in very hard into expirations and then come crumbling down very hard. For instance, what happens on this chart here, when we looked at it earlier, it came into break even as the news was here. And so even this, it's like, who pushed this, right? Who was actually pushing price? And when you look at the intraday chart, it's not very helpful, right? And so it's again, some of these things need to be sort of beg the question of who's pushing prices, how much money is actually involved. This is a very sort of mid cap to large sort of ticker to begin with. Some of these things are, you know, it's not easy to tell how things should be traded, right? And so it needs to be very careful when we look at some of these, and it's more the grouping that matters. Just like when we talk about these AMC, BB all coming together, it's because there's multiple tickers, so that helps, right? The CCIV sucks. It shouldn't even be putting points on because again, that's not how facts and shit are supposed to work. But hey, it's that's what's happening, and at least it's conjoined with other tickers, right? Uh, we will have to see what happens this week. I think there's going to be a lot of rumblings around the bio thing, uh, all to the upside, bullish, and it's going to be a debate. I've talked about it before. Prices go through a debate in the market of what exactly it means. The debate will be, is this a good thing that the FDA is just going to, the government's basically just saying, you know what? You got something that's fucking good enough, we'll put it out there because it's going to help enough people. That's a different understanding, just like the Fed has had a different understanding. We'll let inflation go past 2%. The government's willing to give people money. These are all very progressive ideas. Everything has been pretty progressive. So, again, we'll see what the market does this week. This thing with the taxes, it was hard to tell if the market did anything at all. I don't think they cared. Again, I don't think corporations really cared so much. I think it's more of a street talk sort of thing. I will mention that just about everything on our list today was fucking green. Even though the market was a little bit sideways, most things were green. If you look through, there were a lot of opportunities today. I'll mention again the wind trade, for instance. These sort of things popped up in a lot of places. And so when we have a support being pulled into on something that we like, we should again still be, even though we're in this long-term sort of perspective right now, we should be taking it on the charts that we want to get involved in. I will throw out there, for instance, retail, the retail trades, retail stores, excuse me, looked very good coming into CPIs come Thursday. So it seems like market is betting on that. We talked about the uranium meme. This is more, again, not a meme. This is all commodities. Commodities did very well again today. That's further pricing for the inflation trade. It's important to remember that is being seen as an inflation hedge as well. It's a super cycle that we're within. So that's important. The other part that's interesting here is, again, the small cap perspective. Whether or not this is where people really want to be positioned or whether it's a short-term sort of dynamic, money is being put into regional banks and small oil. And we usually see this when it's a day that big oil and big banks do not get put, sort of don't get demand. And so they're one and the same. I think we should look at it that way. Small caps coming back almost all-time high as well. This is something something that we can't ignore. This is also fueled by some bios that are within the Russell 2000 that are smaller. So let's keep that in mind, that it's possible that a lot of this push comes from there. But overall, everything is very bullish. It looks like it's going to be a very interesting week. The other thing I wanted to mention was, again, we're going into the Iran nuclear deal again. And there's questions again about what exactly that means for the state of the Middle East. We've already seen what's going on with Israel. Watching aerospace and defense again, those specifically with government contracts, things like LMT I've talked about coming in Thursday, are going to be interesting because they are in a spot where we can take positions on them. So keep that in mind. It is going to be a very hot sort of Thursday, I think. Also with how we have expirations coming up, we're going to have some gamma moves overall, I would say. And so things are really, I would look at today as things are really hot today. And that should definitely give some of those transition signs to you guys. That's like, okay, this is quite a bit of points overall, like just about everything. We can find a lot of things that put points on. Roku was the other one coming out of the low that was very nice. But so many things are putting more than an average amount of points on that we do need to keep in mind that these things are usually short sort of spurts, and we're coming around economic events which usually have some sort of take profit alongside them. So find a point to do some transitions if you need to, or at least understand that if you're not in position, you're still losing money, because today you just missed everything if you were not in position. If you are not in from last week or at open, in most cases, you couldn't even really get in at open. There was some pullback opportunities. You're missing out, right? You're losing money. You're not going to be able to buy them in a few days from now. And even buying after today is very difficult when you look at some of these charts. When we look at some of the other growth names that are a little bit smaller that I've talked about, we're looking to come out of the lows. Some of these are almost becoming a problem to enter. It's not really clear. The other one that I've talked about is COVID winners have been at this low. There's a question of, do these make points? These are really the only thing at a low you can buy. There's actually nothing else that is at a low. Maybe Apple, right? That is still a significant low buy. It does make it difficult. What happens? You get FOMO. You get this overheating, this sort of momentum buying that happens. You're going to have those meme tickers start to come down. These things are all happening at once, right? It doesn't mean that we can't do that for a week, right? It doesn't mean we can't do this for a week. It does need to be mentioned that there's been plenty of time to make a lot of points, right? And things will sort of fall out of the trend. So let's keep that in mind come Thursday, because I think Thursday's going to be quite the day. So overall, it's going to be it's going to take some navigation. The question for tomorrow is the same as we talked about from last week going into this week, is this all-time high dance. Mega caps led the way, and we still weren't able to push through the high. If anything, China's going to open us up higher, right? Asia will open us up higher. It's again, it should open us up into all-time high. To this morning, we were an all-time high. This is, it's enough. I think it's enough. We've looked at the Chinese tickers. They're not great, but I don't see them really coming down. Europe is going to be very bullish on what we sort of saw come at the tail end of today. I would imagine with banks and energy both being sort of down and flat today, that those are obviously going to pop back up. We're going to have a few days of probably heat here, right? So you got to be involved. You got to be bullish. Talked about this morning, you got to be in. Just buy something, right? Probably not specifically the bios tomorrow, right? You could have got involved with that last week. Today, the points were put on, right? You get the points. If you got you captured some of these today, it's important that you understand you need to take the money home, and that you don't get to decide what happens with these. They may not be down pre-market after hours right now or in pre-market tomorrow. But it's still important to understand that you don't get to just, guess. You don't go, well, maybe it'll go up for another couple days, so I'll just push it. I want to make more. There's no such thing, right? And so push your winnings, but understand that bios are very volatile, right? That's not how, it's not like another chart that you can keep pushing the winning and it makes sense to. Some of these don't actually make sense at all. It's just like the meme stocks. You better be day trading this. There is no such thing as holding these, right? And so until we get some answers from the market, we keep everything going. Very bullish. The long-term trades are working out significantly well right now with, again, capturing really not intraday, but day to day, week to week. So everything on that side's good. I would love to see the NASDAQ go all-time higher. I think with what we've seen, when now that we broke out of this level, I mean, I know we've done this so many times, but it's less than 2% to all-time high. I'm pretty sure we can do that this week if Apple's able to come out of the low, as well as with Amazon. It's important that you're positioned for that, because again, S&P is going to go to all-time high, and that's going to immediately lift everything else up as well. But this could be quick. This can be quick here before we enter some sort of slow consolidation for a week or something, right? Or some sort of pullback. So you got to get the points now. Right. Obviously, we were given some gifts today with bio, but it doesn't really matter. Let's bring it over here. Let me just show this real quick. When we look at commodities overall, most were continuing up here on the metal side, but what we saw was sort of the rest taking profit. Again, energy, agriculture, all these things took profit today. Look at the relationship between how growth in the more volatile side of the equity market was bid today. We see that things that are on the opposite side, which is usually that commodities in value are up, growth's down. We saw the opposite here today. this is again all connected. It's important to see how people are, or at least traders and investors out there are, if there's something that they can make up money on right now, they will trade it. And so even with bios and meme stocks and everything popping off today, and again, big tech companies, again, if you're able to buy the 5 mega caps, then you'd rather do that than buying anything else. It's important to see this in how it's so obvious to see, right? And we need to understand that there is a correlation there. If there's something to buy right now, then we're going to buy that. And you don't want to miss out on that price. So if this dynamic continues, it's just better than using the dollar, right? The dollar's just shit right now. We can't really use it. The bond dynamic, I don't think we really need to go over too much anymore. It's very understood that you don't want to be locked into a rate when inflation's going up. There's some interesting things happening on the betting side. I don't know if anyone's seen this. Maybe I'll post the Bloomberg chart. The futures are up quite a bit, betting on yields to go up. It's a little interesting to look at. I'll post it. Crypto, let's just finish it off with Bitcoin here. This again, I said it this morning. It's consolidating to its apex. Uh-oh, we on the wrong layout? Oh, where's my lines? Oh, it's the wrong chart. Sorry. Consolidating to its apex. I will not buy this here. And I would say that this downtrend into a consolidation leads to another downtrend. You just copy this line here and comes over. But I said this morning, if you are a Bitcoin bull and you believe in Bitcoin, then this is the best part. This is quite literally the best point that you could buy it as a true believer. The best point you could buy it, because the volatility is going to come right now. It's going to come right now. Now, there's a lot of things, again, a lot of reasons why I won't buy it, because I think there's too much activity in the equity market, and Biles today proved it again. There's too many things that you can buy in the equity market and make work that I don't see why you'd want to buy cryptos. I just don't know why you'd want to do it. And so, especially when you have other commodities that are doing well, like gold. If you ask a question to somebody, would you rather buy gold or Bitcoin? And more of them would say they'd rather buy gold here, then that's not a good sign, I would say. And I would say most people would rather buy gold over Bitcoin right now, because this is just better right now. There's just more here. The breakout's more recent. The consolidation was long, right? It's meant to be on a super cycle the upside. It's a good hedge, people think, to inflation, even though it's technically not. But you can make it a good hedge if everyone fucking buys it. You make money on your hedge. That's why I say it's not really a hedge if everyone's doing it to make money on it. That's just called fucking normal investing and trading, because you think it's going to go up. So you're long on it, but okay, you're hedging, I guess. Okay, no, you're long, and so this still is better. It's still important that we understand that that money's out there, and I don't think it's all came into the equity market yet. So, considering that most people, it takes a long time to probably transfer, let's keep in mind that there's still cash out there, and there's some heat left in the tank, right? So, overall, a fun day. I don't really have anything to say. It's a madhouse out there, guys. It's just a nonstop buying. I will just say, in terms of risks, that the risks involved are not on the market as a whole. I talked about this morning. It's on those volatile stocks that risks are involved, and you need to understand that those do not operate like the rest of the market, right? We can just be long in these large caps and mega caps and value, and it doesn't matter. Nothing's gonna ever. It will never go down 40% during the day, right? That'll never happen. These tickers that you see putting points on today, and the meme tickers, they can lose it all in a day, and that's a risk that you're taking. So if you're staying in a position overnight, that's just something inherently that you're accepting. So understand the difference between the two. Understand how to get as much money as possible into the market, which is what I've been saying is 90% value in those large, the larger sort of companies, blue chips, if you will, and then 10% on the risk side. I choose to use my risk on mega caps and on some of these other growth tickers coming through, and obviously using some of these bios and healthcare things that we've talked about they are volatile trades, but they have upside. There's something there across the board, right? And so understand what your portfolio is. It's all about risk management. Don't throw away money. Don't throw away gains, right? Nothing wrong with taking profit early and feeling like you're a pussy. There's nothing wrong with that. Usually it's being a pussy because you didn't enter, right? Don't worry about it if you're in the profit. Take the money home. Take it home. Buy yourself something. I'll see you guys in the morning. I'll post some of the things I was just talking about for charts from Bloomberg. So enjoy your night, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And until next time.